If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to dogmanencounters.com/podcast. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for this special midweek episode of the show. I really appreciate you showing up and tuning in. On episodes 399 and 488, tonight's guest came on and told us about multiple encounters she had with a female dogman, or I guess I should say a dogwoman, that she affectionately calls Ember. Well, not too long ago, it was actually in July, she reached out to me to let me know that she had had another experience with Ember, and she was wanting to know if I'd like to get a full update on what happened. So, of course, I said, yeah, I definitely would. And of course, we scheduled a time for the phone conversation where she could do that, bring me up to speed, and she was just going detail by detail through. And once she shared a particular detail about that experience, it just blew me away. It really did. It blew her away when she noticed what she told me about and what she consequently is going to pass along to you. Well, enough on the fine details like that. Let's just bring her in here now so we can get down to brass tacks and have Kim tell us about what's happened. Tonight's guest is Kim. Kim, thanks so much for coming back.
Hi, Vic, and the rest of the Dogman Encounters radio family.
Kim, you've been, how should I put it? I should say you've become a show celebrity in a big sense. I mean, people have been looking forward to you coming back and giving these updates on this most recent experience.
I think that just comes from the fact that my encounter has been more pleasant than a lot of what the other people have gone through. I've not had the terrors that other people have.
Well, I see that as being a great thing for more reason than one. Lately, there's been a stretch of bad encounters eyewitnesses have been sharing with me. It's been bad. I mean, they've been really traumatized by them, and understandably so if you knew what they went through with these encounters. Like I said, they're particularly traumatic experiences. Of course, there's the one I told you about, I told the listeners about, where the eyewitness said that he has felt tortured up until present day about his encounter because of what happened. That experience, other experiences, when you came along at the right time because, yeah, I mean, you can kind of get down in the dumps when you're exposed to so many negative experiences. But when you came along in July to give me the good news about what happened when you had your experience, I needed that. So I didn't tell you all this background info, but yeah, it was really a good thing when you did that.
Well, the only reason that you heard from me was because of Cody's show. You had reached out to me to tell me about Cody's show. And I was like, well, I'll just tell you where I've been recently and what I've been having go on.
Well, I'm glad you did. For anyone who isn't putting two and two together, Cody's the eyewitness who came on recently to tell us about his experiences with Sasha, the dog woman that's been hanging around his rural property. That's what Kim's talking about. Kim, for any of the listeners who missed episodes 399 and 488, please tell us about yourself, and then also please tell them the Cliff Notes version of the experiences you shows and told us about.
Okay. I'm basically a retired nurse, which is temporary because of a health issue, but I'm a vibrational sound therapist, which is kind of an odd thing. We won't expand on that. Single. I live in a motor home, and I go back and forth to Bonner Springs, Kansas, from Kansas City, Kansas, to my mother's, and that's the area that I have had all my in run-ins with Ember. I don't know, Vic. My first encounter was when I was 16, and I was out one summer night with my little country boyfriend, and we had a huge male dogman cross the road in front of us, and I thought I was looking at Satan at that point in time because I had no idea what they were. I had never heard of them, and there were a lot of rumors going on, and that was back when the satanic panic was going on. And he was about 10 foot tall, and he was a little bit frightening, but he crossed in front of us and then went to the other side of the road, and it was everything I could do to get the man in the truck to keep driving and get away from this creature. But it just stood there and looked at us, did nothing but stand there and look at us. I had a pretty good view of him, but I described him in that um, show. I'm not going to describe him again. I'm just giving you a kind of a thumbnail version of this. And fast forward to about a year ago, last spring and fall, I was coming and going to my mother's a lot, and that's the first time I saw Ember. I was just meandering along a road that day, side road out where I usually drive through, and I heard footsteps in the leaves, and I thought maybe it was somebody on a horse, but it wasn't 4 feet, it was two. And it was Ember. I think I startled her as much as she startled me. Of course, I was shocked, and I stood there and looked at her for a few minutes, and after she bared her teeth at me, I left, drove away. About 2 weeks after that, I was in the same area, and in the distance along a back field, I saw what I thought were five of them in various sizes, and I was thinking that maybe it was her and her family because it was just within like 2 weeks' time when I did see those again. And then recently, I have encountered her again in the same area. The anything west of where they are is pretty well more rural than east, and they're staying in the same area. She's only about 2 miles from where I saw her the first time. Right now, when I saw her this time. Vic, do you want me to just tell the story?
Not yet. I've got a few more questions for you, such as how did you come up with such a great name for her? That's perfect, Ember.
Amber. Okay. Well, honestly, I had Pomeranian puppies at one point in time, and there was one little puppy that was colored almost just like her. And the lady that adopted her named her Ember. So this little dog lady looked like that puppy in color, not in cutesy or size, just in color. That's how I came up with the name Ember. I also have a honorary granddaughter named Emberlyn. So Ember just was just a good name.
Yeah, that is a great name for her. It really is. I'm
It was
impressed.
it was mostly her eyes amongst the ash color of her fur. Those bright yellow golden eyes amongst the ash color of her fur, like an ember that's still burning.
Well, that's witty. Like I said, that is a great name for her. Before you had this most recent encounter in July, had you been thinking about her much?
Oh, every time I drive through there, I'm down that way at least 2 to 3 times a week, and I go the exact same route every time, and I'm always looking.
Wow, yeah, that is a lot of effort to try and see her. Do you subscribe to the idea that by thinking about her as much as you have been, that maybe you made it more likely that you actually would?
I'm tending to lean towards that now. Um, that wasn't something that I had um, become sure of, but that's very much what I'm leaning towards thinking these days. Yes, after what happened in July, definitely.
If you're somewhat closed minded, it's all too easy to think that there's no possibility that obsessing on something could affect your chances of encountering it again. But this world is a strange place. It operates in strange ways. Maybe there is something to that. Maybe it did
Well,
increase
you
the
you have
odds.
well, as I said, I'm a vibrational sound therapist. I believe energy and vibrations motivate and drive everything. So it makes perfect sense to me to think that thoughts can cause actions.
Yeah, you just might be right on that. Who's to say that you're not? Considering the fact that you've had three sightings of her, do you think you might be connected to her on some level?
Yeah, I begin to think I am now. It took me a while studying the other encounters and listening to other people to accept that that might be a possibility because I rejected it originally, but I'm thinking along those lines now too. Yes.
Well, this whole Dogman, or I guess I should say Dogwoman thing, was so new to you. Of course you rejected it. Almost anyone would. It's so much more comfortable to live in life when everything is predictable and everything is how it's supposed to be. But if you have an experience like the ones you've had, then it's only natural that you're going to cling to some normalcy, at least for a certain period of time. So, yeah, that's totally expected. How comfortable are you, Kim, being around her now?
Well, I would be comfortable with her, but she has that companion now. So he was a whole different. I've got a kind of a leery feeling about that now. Her, no. I actually think that she would walk up to me, but she's never had that chance. And once I tell the story, they'll understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like you said, especially with him around, that's not going to happen. All right,
No,
Kim, please. Oh, I'm sorry.
no. So go ahead.
Well, please tell us about this latest encounter now. Give us every last detail that comes to mind.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Uh, it was mid July. We had a lot of rain, and I had a flat tire. I was on my way to my mom's, and I was had about 3 miles to go still to get there, and I had a flat tire, and I pulled off on a side road. This road has been under construction. It still is under construction. They had taken out the entire road, and it was down to gravel. They've been digging big ditches on both sides, putting in new sewers, water lines for several miles up this road, so it's just destroyed. I do not know why I pulled off and went through the barriers onto that road. I initially got out of the car, and it was raining. It was just a soft drizzle kind of rain, not a serious hard rain. It just was enough to keep everything damp. And like I said, I'd been doing it for about 3 or 4 days, and the days were gray and weren't very sunny or bright. And I got out of the car. I thought, maybe I could blow the tire back up. Dumb me. But the tire was destroyed, and I won't go into that. But anyway, so I got back in the car and I called AAA. I always keep AAA. They're worth the money. Anyway, I called AAA, and they said it'd be about an hour, maybe hour and a half, but they'd come as soon as they could. And so I called my mom, and she goes, "I'll come get you." I said, "No, I don't want to leave the car here. You just have to bring me back. I'll just sit here and play on my phone." So I'm sitting on a side road. There's a house probably a half a mile down another road, and there's no houses in front of me down this tore up road. So there's really nobody around. There's not much traffic. It was about 1:32 in the afternoon. It was pretty early because I was headed for my mom's, and I spend a lot of time with her. I help her with a lot of things. She is elderly. She's 86. And anyway, so I just sat there in the car, and for about 10 minutes I was playing with my phone, and I saw some movement over to my left, and I looked up, and okay, the road ends. It's very narrow because, like I said, they've shaved it off. Great big, huge, deep ditches. On now, I'm headed north. My car is facing north, and I'm looking to the west when I say I saw this sighting. And I see movement in the grass, and there's like 3 foot tall grass because none of it's been cut, for months and months. And there's a tree line about 30 to 40 feet back from the road. And I see movement in the grass, and I looked over, and I immediately knew who I was looking at. The grass was tall, but it was sparse. You could see through it, but not clearly. And I could see her. I saw her peeking at me, and I could not believe. I could not believe. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm sitting here with a flat tire. What am I going to do? She's down on all fours in the grass, and she stands up on her 2 feet, and so she's bipedal at this point, and she just standing there looking at me, and my windows were down a little bit because it was raining, but they went up after this. After I saw her, the windows went up and the doors got locked, but I rolled my window down, and I actually said her name, and she just kind of looked at me, and she wasn't facing me straight on. She was kind of turned to her left a little bit, kind of like she was going to turn around and go back the other way, maybe, or, just to flee. But she stood there in that position and looked at me. She went back down on all fours, took a few more steps forward and remained down on the grass for just a little bit and then stood up again. And when she stood up, I noticed something about her that I just still cannot believe to this day. She's pregnant. She has a baby bump. She wasn't very far along. Vic and I discussed this because I said, she who knows when she's going to have it. I'm figuring probably next spring because we don't know anything about them. Of course, nobody knows anything about these creatures, but she's pregnant. And she's just as cute. She's just as cute as she ever was. She's very pretty. She's a gray and she's got kind of a white tips to her. I think her hair has changed just a little bit. She seems a little darker. She's taller. She was about 5 foot when I saw her the first time. Now she's probably closer to 6 feet. And she hasn't really filled out. She's not gotten bigger. She's still fairly slender. The dog women are built just a little bit different bodily wise. They're still a big being, but they're more slender, and they've got more of a hourglass shape in a way, I guess, because they're females and they anyway. She's pregnant, and so I'm just sitting there looking at her, thinking, what am I going to do? Oh my goodness, if she would have had to come down into a very big ditch and cross the ditch, but these guys they could jump. So she could have gotten over there if she wanted to, but she didn't. She just stood there and looked at me. She stood there and looked at me for quite a while. It was probably 5 minutes, this whole encounter. I think this is an event, not an encounter. Actually, this is pretty special for me, what I had happen this time. But she glanced back over her shoulder, and she has a male with her, and he's standing behind a tree. There's a limb in front of him. His head's up over the limb. He was probably, yeah, I'd say he was a good 9, 10 feet tall, maybe. I know he was at least 8 foot tall. I've not been back to measure. If I can get somebody to go with me, I might go back, but until then, I'll have to wait. But he was looking over the limb of the tree, through the leaves. I could not see him very, very clearly because he was intending to hide himself. He was not making himself known, but I saw him, and he was male, and he was standing up behind the tree, and she had made a step towards me to come down, to come closer, but he made some kind of noise. He made a grumble. He didn't really growl. It wasn't loud. It wasn't mean. He just grumbled. And she was like, oh, okay, well. So she gets back down on all fours, and I'm trying to keep an eye on him because now he's got me worried because I'm ready to leave. I'm going to drive off on my hub if I have to. He did not come out. He didn't. Matter of fact, he disappeared. He went back into the woods behind him, and she followed him, and she went back into the woods, and that was the end of my actually seeing her. So I'm waiting on AAA. AAA guy shows up, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do if these creatures come back out of the woods? So I'm looking up there at the woods and watching them, and he's like, "Is something wrong?" He says, "What are you looking at?" I said, "Oh, there were some deer up there earlier that I was looking at, and I was just seeing if they were going to come back out because I was thinking, what was I going to do with him if they came out, and where was I going to go? What were we going to do?" But they never did. They never stepped back out. They were gone. They were gone. But they were in the same. They were in a tree line in front of the field that I saw the group back when I first saw her the first time, and then I saw the group a few weeks later. They were still in the exact same area. So they're staying right there. Lots of deer, close to the Kansas River, lots of woods. You can travel from one end of where it actually becomes more rural. You can travel from one end clear to my house if they wanted to, or clear up towards Lawrence or Topeka. There's woods everywhere. So they're just here, and I got to see her. But yeah, she had a little baby bump. I don't know. I don't know what to compare it to. Um, she looks like maybe a 7 month pregnant female human is what I would compare her baby bump to. Um, but it was pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool doesn't do it any justice. That's amazing. When you told me about that, that blew me away. I thought, you've got to be kidding me.
tickled. That's why I think she was going around on all fours as much as she was. Because she was moving around on all fours more than she didn't actually walk around upright. Her movement was always when she got down on all fours. The little bit of movement I got out of her. So I'm thinking maybe it's more comfortable or maybe it's protective. I don't know. Just putting it theories out there.
Well, when you consider the fact that she's walking around in a digitigrade fashion on her toes, if she's pregnant, I can only imagine that it's got to be a lot more comfortable to ambulate on all fours than up on two legs. So that makes sense. That does fit.
Yeah.
That does. Let's say that the dogman wouldn't have been escorting her that day. Are you concerned at all that she might have been a little more aggressive than normal, considering the fact that she is pregnant?
If I had approached her, maybe she could have been. But if she had approached me, I don't think so. I don't think so. She didn't even bare her teeth at me this time.
Yeah, she's really getting to know you. You're almost becoming old hat for her, it sounds like.
Oh, for heaven's sakes! Should I? Well, should I tell about the my mom's house thing?
Please do.
About 2 days after this happened, of course, I didn't find out till like a whole week later. But 2 days after I saw these guys, um, it was about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. My mother lives by herself, and she has an earth contact home, and the second story is above ground, and the bottom story is below ground and surrounded on three sides. But the roof comes down level with the ground. You can go around back of the house and hop up on the roof and walk up to the peak where there are skylights. Well, Mom thought she heard somebody at the back door that night, two nights later, and she called my brother-in-law, and he came up, but he can't get up there quick enough. And she told me, she said she swore somebody was on the roof and had knocked on the skylight. And when my brother-in-law got there, of course, he didn't find anything. But I have told her since to not take the dog out after dark, to make sure that she takes her out, in the daylight. And she hasn't heard anything since. But she tells me this a week later, and I was like, oh no, because I went after I got my tire fixed. After they got done with my tire, I went to her house, and I got there about 3:34. I didn't stay very long, and so 2 days later, they may have visited her. I don't know. Possibility.
Yeah, sounds like they just might have. Before we move on, I just want to thank Liz L. Eclair for her donation. I really appreciate it, Liz. Thank you so much. Kim, is that area where you've been seeing her and those other dogmen, is it mostly wooded? You said there's a lot of trees around there, but is the area mostly wooded and it just has a little bit in the way of open areas, or are there actually more open areas than forest cover?
There's more woodland altogether. I mean, we've got a few farms sprinkled out there, and of course, there's farmland. None of it's planted anymore, and none of it's grazed anymore. But there were farms, but there's a lot of woods, and there's more woods than I ever would have thought about, because after I saw her the first time is when I actually started paying attention to um, the woods. Actually, there was another time, I think I mentioned it to you I think I sent you a message on Messenger. After I saw that group, a couple weeks later, I could have swore I saw a male or a big dog man cross the road in front of the car in front of me, and they slammed on their brakes, and it went down into the ditch where the creek was. The car slammed on its brakes. I was far enough behind it. I thought that's what I saw. Since my eyesight's not the best, it could have been something else, but it looked like one that was upright walking, and it ran. They're like a streak of lightning. So there's a lot of woods, there's a lot of creeks, lots of woods. Almost all of it connects in one way or another. You could travel in tree cover for miles and miles without having to go out into a field.
Yeah, sounds like the perfect habitat for them. No wonder they hang out there. in big
Yeah,
numbers.
I'm just real curious why they're hanging around, or maybe they went away and came back. I don't know.
Well, I think it's their MO to move around a huge home range. I don't think they're in that area all the time, consequently. I think they just circle back to it. But if it's that big of an area with that much in the way of resources, they probably do spend a pretty good amount of time there. So, yeah, it's no wonder you've seen them so many times, considering how many times you have to drive through there.
Yeah, and I won't be surprised the next time I see her at all.
Well, like I told you before, I definitely hope that's not your last time seeing her. I don't think it's going to be. I really don't.
Me
Do you
too.
have Do you have any concerns for the safety of the people who live around that area where you've been seeing them?
Yes, yes. I that we talked about that before. Because the first time I saw her, I just told you I bet that she wasn't by herself. She was such a young female. She it made no sense for her just to be out wandering around. Well, now since I've heard about Sasha, I mean, I obviously there are some rogue females, but now that I've seen her with the big guy, yeah, he worries me. She does not. I mean, I know she can be aggressive. They all can, but he's the one that worries me.
Yeah, you've got good cause to be concerned about him. I mean, I'm sure he's going to be ridiculously protective of her. It's not like she would need his protection from any people coming into that area, but I'm sure he doesn't see it that way. He takes this job pretty seriously, I'm sure.
I think she could hold her own. She's got the claws and the teeth. She's still got the weapons. I mean, she's smaller and more slender, but she definitely could hold her own.
Oh, I don't doubt that at all. I don't. From what I understand, well, I guess we've already covered that. We don't need to hash that out anymore. How far does your mother live, though? I'm wondering, from that area where you've been seeing Ember and the other dogmen.
3 miles.
3 miles. Okay, so yeah, that's a hop, skip, and a jump as far as dogmen go.
Well, heck yeah, it's about a 15-minute walk for them, I'm sure.
Yeah, if not less, with those long legs they have.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just how it goes. If they're that close to where she lives, I'm wondering though. Also, you don't consider, from what I remember about our conversation, you don't consider that most recent sighting an encounter. You consider it to be an event. How so?
Yeah, because she was pregnant. When am I ever going to see that again? The chances of me just seeing her and then it just narrows down to me seeing her in that condition. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm elevating it. It wasn't an encounter, it was an event.
That's a good way to sum it up. I see what you mean now. That does make sense. Now, it's clear that you definitely enjoy seeing her, but do you think she enjoys seeing you?
Well, she's the one that came out of the woods. She wasn't there when I pulled up. She approached me. I wasn't even looking for her. She stepped out. But she wasn't being real pronounced about it. She was being kind of stealthy, I think. But once she realized that I knew she was there, that's when she showed herself.
Well, as you know, I mean, dogmen have walked out of forests before and approached eyewitnesses, not because they actually enjoyed seeing the people, they wanted to get a response out of them. So I was just trying to get some clarity on if you thought that might be more the case with her, or if she actually was showing herself to you because she actually enjoyed interacting with you.
I don't think there was any malice involved. She didn't make any kind of aggressive movement towards me, and he didn't either. She wasn't giving off an air of aggression or concern because he wasn't reacting. If I was her enemy, if she looked at me as her enemy, he would have reacted.
Oh, no doubt about that. And I'm pretty sure he realized that you weren't any threat to either one of them, but of course he's
Well,
still going
hell
to
no.
keep an eye on you.
He's got the upper hand. I mean, look, I mean, compared to me, yeah, you don't have nothing to worry about. Shoot.
Yeah, I'd say.
I didn't even have my pew pew with me that day, so he wouldn't have had any worries at all.
No, even if you had that, and I'm sure he knew that. I am. Well, let's dive into some of these questions now. The first one is from Tisha's Watch. And Tisha wants to know, Kim, have you been able to get any pictures of Ember?
No, no. The first time I saw Ember, I was too stunned to take pictures of her. This time I didn't because I know better. I'm too afraid. I was too afraid of scaring her away. I would love to have pictures of her because can you imagine what it's worth? But I just didn't want to scare her off because they know what cameras are.
Yes, they do. It's good you know that. If you want to have future experiences with her, pulling out a camera, that's the worst thing you could have done because you probably wouldn't have ever seen her again. This next one's from Al Kirk, and Al wants to know, Kim, are you positive a personal encounter with Ember would not be without its danger?
Oh yes, there's always potential for danger. I mean, that's a given with these guys. You can't be that foolish about it. And believe me, I was ready to drive off on my rim. I wouldn't have got very far. They would have caught up with me, but I was ready to leave. I even started the car just in case. I had to pull up, but I didn't. Just stayed there.
Yeah, it's a good move covering your bases like that. I'm glad you did that. This next one is from Bigfoot Mama. Well, that's a great name. She wants to know, Kim, what state are you in?
Kansas.
You shared that already, but she asked the question, so I wanted to put that out there. Ask her a question nonetheless. This next one is from Truth Iris, and Truth Iris wants to know, what does your mom think?
I'm not sure she believes me. she, I'm kind of out there anyway. We won't go into that, but I'm always talking to her about everything and anything. I don't know if she believes me or not. I mean, she just kind of looks at me. I'm not sure she hasn't had an encounter as a child or a young person herself, but she really doesn't. I think she tries to change the subject is basically what she does.
Well, she might try to change the subject for one of two reasons. She might be uncomfortable thinking about the possibility that what you're telling her is true, which she should know you're not going to lie to her, but that might be the reason behind her trying to switch the channel, so to speak. Also, two, maybe she's had experiences also. You talked about the one that happened late that night, but maybe more has gone on around her home that you don't know about. It's hard to say.
Yeah, possibility.
You never know. You really don't. This next question is from Alicia Lozier, and she wants to know, do you think she remembered you from the last time you saw each other?
Yes, I honestly do. I think I do. I think she remembers me. And besides, in my heart, that's what I'd like to think.
Yeah, I'll bet she does. I bet good money on that. Bang Bang wants to know, Kim, do you think these are evil dogmen?
Do I think they're youthful?
Evil.
Oh, evil. No, I don't. I don't have any reason to think that they're evil. Of course, I've always been leery of I Vic knows I have woods behind me. I've always been leery of one of them showing up here. But I haven't seen anything to indicate any kind of evil. I didn't even feel any malice or evil from them.
And if they were evil, they've had their chances to do you in and do other things too.
Yeah.
They
Well,
have.
they could have had me and the AAA guy.
They sure could have. That's right. It's good you understand that. This next one is from Bang Bang, and they want to know, Kim, have you found any kind of nest?
Nest. No, no, I haven't been really cross country to find anything like that, but that would be so cool.
Yes, it would be. There was another question related to that. I'm going to scroll and see if I can't find it. Where a guest asked a question about a gift. Yeah, there we go. It's from Ariel Darkstar, and they want to know if you found a seashell she might have left for you.
No, I haven't looked and I don't know where they would leave something like that because would they be coming here to my home? Maybe at my mom's house. Um, that would probably be the more likely place that they would leave something.
Yeah, well,
We
they're
did
hard.
have we did have some strange evergreens show up in her backyard, back by the far fence, a couple months ago, and we couldn't figure out where they had come from because there wasn't a tree like that around. I had forgot all about that, everybody was like, "Where in the hell could those come from?" So maybe that was my nest. I don't know. I had just remembered that.
Huh. Yeah, they might have been behind that. It's hard to say. Christina Easterday's got a good question. She wants to know, do you think Ember knows you're a safe place for her, like when deer come in our field during hunting season?
Well, like I said, I'm a high believer in vibration and energy and thought patterns and telepathy and mind speak, which I've not experienced that I know of from these guys. So if anybody's going to ask that, I'm answering that now. But I totally think that she just knows. I mean, these guys are so more advanced in such a different way than we are. I really think she knows. I mean, it's just like, okay, my dogs. If my dogs like a person, I know that's a good person. So why wouldn't these guys have an even higher version of that judgment than what a normal canine does? So they should be able to tell. And I solely believe they can tell.
Yeah, they just might be able to. Who knows what the extent of their abilities are? So, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. It looks like the next one is from DeWicked69, and they want to know how smart you think dogmen are.
I sort of kind of already touched on that. I think they're highly intelligent. I think their intelligence is on a different level than ours and in a different way because they are in nature and they have all of the abilities to survive in nature. So I think that they are highly intelligent in that manner. And of course they live around us. We don't see them. They skirt us. They're always out there looking at us, and we don't see them. So that's a level of intelligence that you have to admire right there, just in itself, just by itself.
I agree. That's a good way to sum it up. It looks like Be Kind has the next question. She wants to know, Kim, have you ever noticed a shift in barometric pressure or odd sense before? I think she wants to know if you've had an odd sense before any of your encounters.
No, I am highly tuned into barometric pressure because it causes me migraine headaches and other type things. So no, I haven't encountered that with these guys. No.
Well, yeah, sounds like you are sensitive to that then. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's an Android app. It's called WeatherX, and that's what I was going to tell Jared about. It tells you the barometric pressure every day.
Yeah, so you would know. You definitely
Yeah,
would then.
I keep an eye on it. Yeah.
It sounds like you do. D Truth wants to know if you're planning a baby shower for Ember, maybe a special meal.
You know, uh, I don't know. That's might be a cool idea to leave something down there where I saw her. That's a good idea. Not a baby shower, but I might leave something special. But like I said, I need to get somebody to go back with me, and to get my son convinced that this is a real thing is a work of art in progress.
Is he close to coming around, or is he crossing
Yeah,
his arms and saying no
no,
way?
he's close to coming around. He's got a lot of odd, unusual, diverse, open-minded things of his own. So I think I've got him convinced. I just wish somebody would be with me when I saw him. I do. I wish I had an eyewitness.
Well, I'm sure it's not lost on you that if you have someone else with you, the odds of you actually seeing her again are pretty slight.
Yeah, because I have her trust. You're right. And then I may never see her again because then she might not trust me anymore.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You never know. Ghosty UFO wants to know, what do you think Ember thinks about you?
Um, No, I never thought about that. I am another female, and I'm an older female, so she might look at me as more of a mother type, because I know she knows I'm a senior citizen because I am, and I know they're smart enough, so she might that may be why she trusts me because she knows I'm an older female, and I think that's maybe that's why she's attracted to me.
That might be. It just might be. See, who was it that had this question? Yeah, there it is. A great question from Tisha's Watch. She wants to know, do you think she might come back to show you her young?
Well, I can only hope, can't I? Vic and I talked about that, and when I first saw her the first time, somebody asked me that. Did I think that Ember would show me her pups? And I would love to see her pups. And I'm putting that out mentally, so maybe she'll catch it. Maybe I will get the chance to see them. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, that sure would be. You never know. You might see the baby. Yeah, it's hard to say. I've got another great question for you from, who was that from? Truth Iris. There we go. They want to know, were you able to distinguish a round or vertical pupil?
Her pupils are round.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard an eyewitness, a credible eyewitness, ever say that they saw elliptical pupils like a snake. It's always been round pupils. So that
Well, she's,
fits.
well, she's not reptilian. She's a mammal.
Well, neither are cats, house cats, but yeah, they have elliptical
Yeah,
pupils as well.
yeah. Well, but they're also cats. These are canines.
Yeah, that's true. Well, foxes have elliptical pupils.
Yeah, but aren't foxes a whole different branch? They're not descended from wolves.
Well, they're canids. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
not
Okay.
wolves, but
Anyway, they were round. They're round. If they change, I'll let you know.
hopefully it won't change. Hopefully it's going to just stay the same. Yeah, probably will. I don't see that changing. Bang Bang wants to know if Ember has ever smiled at you.
The first time I saw her, she smiled at me. And when she did that, that's when I had to leave because I didn't know how to take it. She had this big old bare of the teeth grin.
I'm sure you did know how to take that. Yeah, that's hard to process. When you see all those big sharp teeth. Andres Kirizales is the next question. He wants to know, the male you saw with her, have you seen him before or is he new for you to see?
He's new for me to see, but he could have been in the group that I saw crossing the field that day. He could have been one of those, but um, as far as I'm concerned, he's something new.
No, you're
He's a
probably
big
right.
guy. He was coal black and scary as the I'll get out. I do have I have a much more ingrained fear of them now because of his appearance, not because of any action, but I've always been leery of them, but now that I've seen him, I you know she. But he didn't do anything, so he's innocent. He's still innocent. Innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, I'm sure he does look like he's playing for keeps. I don't doubt that at all. Christina Easterday wants to know if you've named that male dog man.
No, no. I just call him Big Guy.
Well, that's an accurate name for him. It's fitting. It looks like Joelle Marlin wants to know, do you think maybe she's aware you share about her with other humans? Like maybe she wants you to educate fellow humans.
Actually, that's a very unique thought right there. I hadn't thought about that. So I'm going to say no. I hadn't thought that, but that was really cool for you to come up with that. That's
Yeah,
something to ponder.
that is a good question. It definitely is. Let's see, looking for another good one. Yeah, I've got one here from Be Kind. She wants to know, Kim, are you a sensitive, clairvoyant, pick up on paranormal activities, RH
Yeah,
negative?
yeah, I'm not RH negative, but I do pick up on paranormal. I have a history of paranormal, which I haven't opened up to Vic about. And I am an empath, yes.
Yeah, I've got a sneaking suspicion that plays into all these encounters you've had. And LO wants you to know that he would definitely or she would definitely go with you if they could. Laugh out loud.
Okay, thank you.
Be careful what you wish for. You might come to regret that. Kurt Schlichting wants to know, Kim, have you tried Mind Speak?
Have I tried Mind Speak? I have to admit that while I was sitting there looking at her, I called her name once, and I don't know how to explain it. I can't think of a way to explain this, but I was sitting there uh, thinking things like, "Are you going to come any closer? What do you want? Why are you here? And you're beautiful, and I'm happy for you." Those kind of things. But I was just thinking those things. I wasn't really aiming them at her or trying to converse with her. And of course, I hadn't seen him yet. I wouldn't have been that frivolent if I had seen him. Once I saw him, I got a little bit terrified.
I can understand why you did. Yeah, definitely. I can't remember if I asked you this question or not from Al Kirk, but he wanted to know, do you think you might be driving close to a den site?
Yeah, I do. I think I'm real close to a den site. Because of the five I saw, that family group, and then these two have shown up, and they're obviously a family themselves. So there's got to be a den site somewhere. They even if they travel, like Vic and everybody that knows these guys better than I do, say they travel around and make circuits. Well, they've got to have normal, regular places that they stop off. So I would say there's a den around there somewhere, and I'm probably driving right by it.
Yeah, it just might be. You never know. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
And this is touching on a comment they made just a bit ago. LO wants you to know, Kim, I think after Ember has her baby, she's going to show it off to you. Laugh out loud. Who knows? Maybe they want to adopt you into their clan. Laugh out loud.
Oh boy. Okay. I'd love to see the baby, but I don't want to be adopted.
Yeah, you don't want to be adopted into their clan. That wouldn't be a good scene.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't last a day. Probably. I'd probably wind up as lunch.
Hopefully, it wouldn't come to that. I don't think it would. I don't think it would because, like I've said before, these guys don't have any trouble feeding themselves at all. I mean, I think they
Right.
feed themselves like it's going out of style. If you think mountain lions are deer killing machines, these guys would make them look like rank amateurs, in my opinion.
Yeah. As stealthy as they are, I don't know why they can't just walk up and swipe at the deer and get them because they sure are stealthy. And that big guy, he didn't make a noise. I didn't even know he turned around and left the tree until she ducked, until she walked under the limb, and I was looking in that area. He was gone. He had just disappeared, just as silent as he had shown up.
I'm sure it seemed like he was gone, but I'll bet you good money he was still there watching you.
Well, he wanted her to go. He was done because she started to move towards me. He made a noise. She turned around, looked at him, and then that was it. She was ready to go.
Yeah, I'll bet he couldn't get her out of there soon enough. I'll bet you're right. Bang Bang wants to know, do you think she goes to your mom's house? Which you touched on that at the start of the show.
I've never had any indication of it until now because every time well, let me think about that. The first time I saw her, I was going to mom's. The second time I saw the family group, I was headed home from mom's. When I saw the one cross the road, I was going home from mom's. This is only the second time I've been headed for my mother's. And she did have that noise that night, which we don't know what it was. I'm kind of hoping not, but yeah, I think there's a good possibility because that's where I was headed the other day, so they know that's where I go.
Yeah, I'll bet good money they have followed you there. And if that's the case, if they know where she lives, then yeah, it would make sense they probably have paid her some visits. So I'll bet you're right on that. Alicia Lozier wants to know any guess based on size perspective, how many buns were in the oven?
Like I said, she was about the size of a 7-month human, and not being able to determine how far along she actually is. Uh, I can't really make an educated statement about that, but the few um, encounters I've heard, not only on Vic's show, but on some others, most of the time there's at least two that are together. There's usually two. I've heard of up as many as four, but it's usually two. And most of the time, uh, uh, dogs have regular dogs have. Uh, if you think about it, most of the litters are even. They're either two, four, six, eight. I know they're odd numbers, but they're not usually even. So I'm figuring it's two, just because, just out of, just the few things I've heard.
Well, that would make sense. Yeah, having more than two Dogman pups, that's really got to be awfully draining on a female. So I doubt that would ever happen, but you never know. Humans have more than two sometimes, so who's to say? It looks like Beth Ferguson has a comment for you. She's saying in her comment, I'm an empath and medium. I had a werewolf slash dogman mind speak with me. I could always feel his energy. How did the energy feel for you when you had your encounters?
She's right. I could feel her energy. That is how I actually noticed her. It was more like I felt something, and I saw the movement, and she was hiding from me when I first found her, saw her, noticed her. But I felt her. Yeah, I felt it. Well, okay. Well, these guys, you know how everything does. Everything goes still, quiet, dead. That's kind of what it was. So, but I felt that there was something there. I felt her. Um, I didn't know it was her till I visually laid eyes on her, but I felt her presence. I knew there was something there.
Yeah, you must be a sensitive then. Andres Carrizales wants to know, do you think if Ember does bring the young one around, that the male will scout you first?
Um, hmm. He didn't show much interest in me. I think he was just humoring her.
Yeah, well, like we've already established, he knows you're not a threat. He wanted to just maybe evaluate you further, but he knows, as intelligent as they are, he knows that you're not a threat. Kurt Schlichting has a question about that male. He wants to know if you can describe him. Any other details about him that you can tell us about as far as his appearance?
He was behind a tree, so there's quite a bit of him I couldn't see. Um, I could see, I saw his genitalia, his tummy. Um, I could see one. He had one. Let's see, it would have been his left arm. He had his left arm wrapped around the tree. I could see his left claws, his hand and claws. The other one was up on the limb. He was holding onto the tree. He had one arm wrapped around the trunk of the tree, and the other arm was up on the limb. But I couldn't see the one that was on the limb because it was like along the limb and behind it. He was really, really, really covered in foliage. It's like he was peeking over the limb of the tree, and he was framed in leaves. I could see his face. I saw his midsection. I couldn't really see a whole lot of his legs. I saw his knees, but I couldn't see the bottom, the way he was standing and where he was standing, because it was kind of downhill, and he was behind shrubbery. He was very, very well concealed, so I can't give you many details about him. He had his head was wide. He had a wide head. He didn't have that long, slender snout like some of them do. His was more of a wide, I don't know what kind of dog can I compare him to? Like a chow.
When they want to conceal themselves, they're masters at doing it. So yeah, it's no wonder you weren't able to get a good look. But
No, he wasn't showing himself to me. He was keeping an eye on Ember and making sure she was safe.
yeah, following her around. I'm sure that's pretty much all he does now. Bang Bang made a donation, and I want to thank you so much for doing that, for supporting the show. I really appreciate it. And I've got another question for you from Be Kind. They want to know, Kim, can you explain the difference between barometric pressure shift and sensing energy shift?
Barometric pressure causes me to have pressure in my head. Energy shift is more a whole body feeling.
I'm sure you've experienced both so many times that at the snap of a finger, you know which one is which.
Well, I know how to ward. Um, I know how to ward against energy. So, being an empath, you have to learn how to ward in order to protect yourself, or you get a lot of you absorb other people's emotions, and you just kind of get on a roller coaster, and it can make you just a little bit crazy. But yeah, it's totally different. It's the barometric pressure and actual energy. T it's just totally different.
I'm going to have to take your word on that because, yeah, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't. Now that you know that she's pregnant, it's obvious you spent a lot of time going up and down those roads in that area. How much more often are you going to be in that area to try and keep an eye out and maybe keep some form of tabs on Ember?
I think probably what I'll do is there are several roads that I can still get to where I need to go that kind of go around different areas there without going out of the area. That's probably what the tack I'm going to take is I'll just take a different road each time I go. I have no reason to go that way any more than I already do. Unless I was just looking for her, and I really don't have that frivolity or time to just be out looking for Ember. But I definitely I have opera glasses and I have my binoculars both in the car. So I definitely am going to start looking for them. Every little movement, everything that's just out of ordinary or I see, I'll um, be checking out.
Well, you're obviously on high alert before. I'm sure it's going to be times 10 now. So that's understandable. Truth Iris has the last question of the night. They want to know, do you believe they're supernatural? They're of a supernatural order or strictly flesh and blood?
I think they're flesh and blood, but they have the ability to um, go between dimensions. That's what I think.
Yeah, you just might be right. A lot of people believe that. So you never know. That just might be the case. Well, before we get out of here, Kim, do you have any closing comments you'd like to put out there for us?
Um, just keep your head on a swivel. You just never know what you're going to see or who you're going to run into or what you're going to encounter and what kind of relationship it'll run into.
Yeah, that's always really good advice. Well, like I told you before, Kim, I can't thank you enough for coming back on to update us on this most recent experience, or I should say event. Event's a better way to put it. I'm with you on that. But yeah, please remember, if you ever need any help in the future, I'll always be there for you. And hopefully you are going to have some updates for us in the future. You never know.
I can only hope.
Yeah, hopefully so. Hopefully you will. Well, like I said, thanks again so much for your time and have a great night.
Thank you, Vic.
You're welcome. We'll see you. Well, that's another one in the books. Like I've told you multiple times, I can't thank you all enough for supporting the eyewitnesses the way you do and for supporting the show. Thank you so much. And if you've had a Dogman encounter that you'd like to speak with me about in private, or maybe you'd want to come on the show and share it with all the other listeners, If you want to do either one of those things, then please go to dogmanencounters.com, submit a report. And if you do that, if you fully complete the report, then I'll contact you. I'll reach out to you to schedule a phone conversation so we can take it from there. But having said that, thanks again so much for listening and have a great night.